Alrighty, so what I have here is the Imalent MS03. It's a new torch that I just bought recently. I started getting back into torches after taking a long time of just losing interest, I suppose, other things coming up in life. But I started looking at torches just recently, and one of the first things that came up was this EDC that apparently produces 13,000 lumens. And to me, that was just crazy because the largest torch I had prior to buying this was a 2500 lumen X-Tar S1, a huge torch, which at the time it was the brightest torch. So just thinking of this thing with 13,000 lumens was almost insane to me, and I had to get it. It was a bit of an impulse buy. So I want to talk a little bit about it. Let's open it up. I'll show you what you get for the money and my thoughts. So this comes with a little holster. It's a nice little holster, though it is a bit tricky to get it in initially because the top of that head is a little bit wider, so you kind of got to wiggle it in to get it in, but it does work. There's the back, kind of, you can attach that onto your belt, and then you could clip that on somewhere as well. You get a lanyard with it. I don't know if I'll keep it on. I've just decided to put it on for the time being, and it's adjustable as well, so you can press that little button there. It's a fantastic little torch if you consider just how many lumens this thing produces, and it runs on a 21700 battery. I'll just open it up so you can have a look. It's a proprietary battery that you get included when you purchase it, and as you can see, it does take a little while to unscrew it as well. And I think that's a good thing because that basically means that there's enough thread there, enough sort of thread to keep this thing waterproof and from wearing away. Sometimes you get those cheaper torches and they don't have much thread at the end, and you can damage it and not be able to screw that tail cap on again. So this is the battery that you get from Imalent. It's one of the most interesting things is that it's got a little USB-C port here. So you actually plug that in and you plug it into your laptop. You can charge it. I also charge this just from a PowerPoint. I've got a USB adapter for my PowerPoint, 4,000 milliamp hour battery. Apparently this is one of, it's a Samsung, a repackaged Samsung cell that has high draw capacity on the high setting. From what I've read, this LED draws 130 watts, which is pretty incredible if you ask me, and it does get quite hot as well because of that. So I'll pop this one back in. Now apparently you can't use a non-proprietary battery. You need to use Imalent's proprietary battery, and this does come with the torch when you get it. There's a 1-year warranty on it. Here's the tail cap. Would be nice if it had a little switch on the end as well, but that's okay. It does have one here on the front. I'll just screw this up a little bit more. And like I said, it does take a little while to get the tail cap on, but that is actually a good thing. The little button here, now this is interesting. It looks like a stainless steel button. It does wobble around a little bit, okay? And one of the things I found out very soon when I got this watch, I gave it a wash under the water, and some water actually got in underneath the reflector and on some of the on the areas of the reflector and underneath the glass, which was quite worrying. And it's all kind of dried up now, but considering that this light was advertised as IPX8 waterproof, it certainly isn't. So just be careful when you're using it in the rain, or if you're washing it, bring it fishing, that type of thing. Water does get underneath, and you can potentially ruin it if you're not careful. So I ended up turning this thing on turbo, and also just taking everything apart, drying it out for a couple of days, and it seems to be working okay still, but that's something to keep in mind. You can also open it up, detach it from this end as well. Let's have a look, see if I can do that. Whoops, just accidentally activated it. So yeah, you can detach this part of it here. that just connects to the head. And one of the issues that used to be present apparently in the older model of this light was that apparently this part was glued to the head, and there'll be some contact issues, and turbo mode would not activate. So far it's been okay, but after a few uses, I think when the battery voltage drops below a certain point, I do get locked out of that turbo mode, which is a little bit annoying. So you know, I can use it for about a day or so, but then at some point when that battery voltage drops, I need to charge it again in order to use the turbo mode. I have found that a little hack is just to unscrew the tail cap and screw it back in, and that will allow you to access the turbo mode on one more time. But apart from that, I don't know if there's any other way to kind of address that issue. But let me just screw this on. I just wanted to let you know what my experiences with it are. Hang on. And the threads are lubricated very, very well, quite smooth. The threads are cut well too, so they're square cuts. There's a nice little knurling sort of pattern here, checkered sort of pattern. I thought was really nice. Serial number. So in terms of using it, there's a couple of quick little functions that you can access straight away. So if you press this 4 times, so 1, 2, 3, 4, what happens is that this green light will flash and you are automatically locked out of the light. So you press it and you're going to get this sort of light there. This is important because a light that is producing this many lumens and draws that much amount of electricity can be dangerous if you accidentally activate that thing in your pocket and you've got one of the high modes on. Or you know, even if you activate turbo, this thing is crazy. I went outside and put it next to a cardboard box for a few seconds, and it actually started to burn a hole through it. So pretty dangerous if you're not careful with it, and interesting because you know, maybe you could use it also camping if you needed to start a fire. So really something I didn't expect, but I mean, considering the amount of current draw, I'm not really surprised at this point. So to deactivate that, just press that 4 times again, and there you can see that green light flashes, and then the light will turn on and off. Okay, you can press and hold that button, and what that will do is that it activates this green light here, which kind of just serves as a beacon so that you know where the light is in the middle of the night if you need to sort of go looking for it. I do turn that thing off. I don't need it here. Okay, but that's a nice little feature. So in terms of the modes, so it's pretty simple. You just turn it on and it remembers the last mode that you use. This is a mode that I've got on at the moment. It's just eco, or the lowest mode. You press and hold it and it just ramps up. Okay, and extremely bright right at the top mode, which is high. Okay, if you want to activate turbo, you can do it just by tapping this button twice. Okay, like that, or you can be in a mode already, you know, like on the lowest mode, and then double tap, and then you can activate turbo from that as well. So I think that's pretty cool that you can also activate it while the light is off. So there's also a strobe feature in here, I think, but I haven't used that before. I think it's you have to have a look at the instruction manual. It's cool that there's these little fins here, little cutout fins. I think that's going to help that heat to disperse a bit more. It's quite light for what it is, but it does have a significant, you know, it does have a presence certainly when you're holding it. But it's something you can just hold and just, you know, put in the palm of your hand and walk around. You can put this in your pocket as well very, very easily. The only drawback I would say is, again, the waterproofing. You know, I had a bit of water get in there and I'm a bit worried about it, but it seems to be functioning okay for the time being. I did contact Imalent as well about this, and they've told me just to dry it out and contact them if I have any issues with it. So if you're thinking of taking this fishing or, you know, submerging it underwater, I think you probably should be a bit careful with it. I did find that when the water was evaporating off, I could see it kind of just bubbling around the edge of the bezel and the inner bezel near the glass. Okay, so that seal in there is probably not the best and needs to be addressed at some stage by Imalent. But in terms of all the different modes, the brightness, the quality of the finish, battery charging, everything like that, it's pretty good. I would have liked for there to be like a tail switch perhaps, or even a switch that just didn't have this funny kind of rattling feeling to it. It kind of feels a little bit like a door button or an elevator button or something like that here. I've been used to using buttons that have a bit of a rubberized finish to it. So that's just something to keep in mind. But I'll post up a few little beam shots as well so you can see how this one looks. Okay, so I've got the MS03 here and we're going to test it out in front of us, and we're going to go through the different modes. So this is on low mode, okay, and it's just going to keep ramping up in brightness to high, and let's go ahead and ramp that up. And you can see everything's start to increase in brightness, okay, and the top mode, that high mode, is really super bright. There's a large amount of flood here, that's for sure. It's mostly just flood. The center of the beam is a lot brighter. Okay, now we just pop it onto turbo. Let's have a look. Wow, 13,000 lumens. Quick test now of the MS03, and we'll start it off just on the eco mode. Oops. Got to disable the safety first. Okay, so it's a very pretty wide beam, like a pretty nice sort of flood beam that's useful. Okay, now let's turn that off and we'll go on the turbo mode. Let's see how that looks. Wow, lights up the entire park. Just going to share some final thoughts about the MS03. Some of the things I like, some of the things I didn't like. So let's start with some of the things I liked first. And the thing that the main reason why I bought this torch was for the brightness, and this thing definitely doesn't disappoint. It's just crazy. I went into a park the other day, just turned it on, and the camera didn't pick it up so well in the beam shots, but it just illuminates everything in front of you to 100 plus meters, and it's almost shocking because you don't expect a torch of this size to be able to just throw that far and produce that much light. So it does ramp down after about 30 seconds to a minute, and you can see it visibly slowly start to ramp down. The torch gets very hot. So of course, if you're producing that many lumens in a torch this size, it has to ramp down. Every single torch has that. But for something that you could just even use the turbo mode very quickly. The earlier models, from what I've heard, had this issue where the turbo would only activate a couple of times before it just turns red. I didn't have this issue on my model, only when the battery level started dropping quite significantly after I'd used turbo for, 10, 15 times. It does start to flash red after a while. I kept playing around the tail cap, opening it, closing it, and it worked again, for a little while. So the brightness on this thing, you just can't beat it. You can't beat it for a torch of this size, 13,000 lumens. It definitely delivers in that sense. So some of the things that I didn't like about it is I found out I gave it a bit of a wash, and I found that some moisture actually leaked inside the torch, and caused just some issues there underneath the glass, and some of it was on the reflectors. So if you're thinking of taking it swimming or in any areas where there's any, rather more than like a splash of water or something like that, I'd be very wary of that. I don't know whether it seeps underneath the button or just underneath the O-rings on the top, but it's definitely not waterproof, so just be careful with that. Another thing, the battery is you need to charge the battery separately. So kind of got to pull it out, charge it here on that little USB-C port. It's not a huge deal for me, but I would have preferred to be able to just plug a USB onto the external area of the torch and just use it that way. It's just a lot more convenient. It tends to be a common feature on a lot of torches, so something for Woburn to think about. I didn't receive a tail clip also in my kit, and I find the tail clip really useful to just store it in my pocket so that it doesn't move around and shift around too much. So I did send a message to Imalent to send me one. I don't think they included it in my package, or I don't know if they actually include it normally, but I saw on the reviews that all the review kits had one included. But that's more of a minor detail. The construction of the threads is also fantastic, square cut. Safety measures, so I can't count the number of times that I've turned this thing on and nearly blinded myself, or have blinded myself temporarily. When you store it, just make sure you press that button 4 times, and then it will just lock the lights. So unless you unlock it again by pressing that button 4 times, okay, it will turn on, turn off. This light is capable of burning holes through clothing, paper, charring wood. I've tested it and just held it onto stuff, and it's melted things. So it's definitely something that you want to keep in mind when you keeping it in your pocket or something like that. And you might have it memorized on one of the higher modes and accidentally flick that button, because I have accidentally flicked this button a few times in my pocket initially, and lucky nothing happened, but it's just something to keep in mind. I wish the button was a little bit more less wiggly as well. As you can hear, it's got this kind of wiggle to the button. So it's looks like a stainless steel button of some sort, but I've been quite used to using those rubberized buttons, or I don't know, maybe they could have just made it quieter. But again, cosmetic issue, and as long as that button stands the test of time, I'm not too fussed, but just it makes it sound a little bit cheap when you've got that button sort of wiggling around like that. I also would prefer if Imalent would create some really low modes on these torches as well. And I know Imalent markets their torches as being super bright, but having some kind of moonlight mode on these torches would just make them more usable in situations where you're out camping and you only want to bring 1 or 2 torches along. Even the lowest mode on this, I think it's 150 lumens. It's a bit too bright, to use at night, and it can mess with your night vision. So, that's another consideration there. Apart from that, I can't really think of anything else. And you have to remember as well that the profile of this beam is just a very wide. It's almost like a blanket of light. And the only way I can explain is it's almost as if you're looking outwards into your garden, or who knows where, and you're just raising the brightness of the entire area by a significant amount. That's basically how it feels when you turn on this torch. It's very surprising. So Don't expect something that throws a huge distance. It's more of a flood beam. Okay, the holster, whatever you call it, it's okay. I did find it to see they got little bits and pieces peeling off around the holster, and for a light that you're paying, $140 plus for, really would expect the holster to be of better quality, because I can see it just start to fray already, and I've not even really used it at all. So it has a very snug fit, and I think that they could have improved the design of it just to take the torch a bit more easily, because certainly I can't put it back in the holster with one hand. I have to sort of fiddle around with it with both hands to put it back in there. So in terms of how useful it is, definitely works, but with the accessories, I think if you're gonna have a torch that costs this much, I think why not have some accessories that also match in terms of the quality. So overall, I would recommend this torch in terms of just the brightness, the wow effect of it. There's nothing out there that I can find that really just compares to a torch of this size. I think it's the brightest EDC. There might be one other, I'm not sure, I can't remember the brand. If you're looking for something special like this, definitely would recommend.